Hello, welcome to a new time and date for the DPM YouTube Live. Today we're going to be playing, excuse me, today we're going to be playing with photo editing on some flower images. They're great for working with color and trying some different things out like abstracts, blur effects, and texture effects. So we're going to play around and see what we can create with some flower images. I'm not a big flower photographer, but you all have sent in some lovely images that I've had archived and saved, and I'm going to pull from the archives today and see what we can come up with. So let's see who's here. Hey, Tom is in Calgary as well. Debbie, Kitty from South Africa. Wow, we've got the globe covered. Sheila's back. Hey, welcome back, Sheila. Brooklyn from France. Bonjour too. Erfurt, Thuringia. Where is that, Hans? Rob, you need to Google that one. I think that's a new one for our map. Florida. Hey, Barbara. David, Eastern Canada. Colin, UK. Germany also is in the house. Wow, we've got pretty much all the continents covered, except we're missing South Africa. We're missing South America. Danelle, we haven't seen Danelle in a while. She's down in South America. Slovakia, hey, welcome. Nice to see you here. Spain, welcome. Wow, this is awesome. We got lots of people here from different places, so that's fantastic. I am going to switch over to my screen where we can see the images. Keep the comments coming, everyone. That's fantastic. Apparently I'm missing my head. Let me just, there we go. I was missing my head. Oh no. Okay, I'm just gonna make myself a little bit smaller here. So I've got some flower images here in Lightroom, and I've also got the same images in Luminar. So I want to work mostly with Luminar today, but there's a couple that I don't have in Luminar, so I want to pull them over from here. These three here are stock images. Let me just move these over. So these first three are stock images. Let me grab my cursor circle. There we go. So I want to just kind of, I have some ideas. I had an idea about combining these two images into one so that the giant sunflower was over top of the other field here. So I thought that might be kind of cool as like a overlay in the sky and combining them. And I've got a nice orange image here from Dawn, and also a tulip. So we've got some color themes going on. This one is actually from our garden. Last year I took this one at the end of the season, and I kind of liked the wiltiness of them. So I thought maybe we could do something with grunge it up a little bit. So maybe add a texture overlay, something like that. So let me just hop over into Luminar. There's a couple of things that I want to try out with these flowers. I did a really cool effect that was the title slide on this one here, where I did a cutout of the background and then put a texture in the background and then zoomed it. So I don't want to redo that one, but I thought maybe we could do something similar with one of these other ones. Let's see, maybe even these ones, something that might cut out really well. The issue is that if you're going to try and do a cutout of something, you want it to have a really good outline. I think this one would work fairly well also. We could do something with this one. You want to make your life easier, right? So trying to cut these out would be harder. That one, you see how it's easy because it's one big flower. This one would probably cut out well also because these flowers are sharp and the background is blurry, so it would cut out well. This one might cut out okay because it's got a nice outline. This one's going to be a little bit harder to get the stem because the tones are similar. We could probably cut that out because the colors are okay. So I'm thinking That one as well would probably cut out nicely, and we could zoom those background flowers. So let's start with this one actually. I want to do a crop on it first. This is a question that I get a lot. Rob, if you could please share the video that we did. We did an entire 2-hour video on just cropping. And we've had some feedback on some people going through our Luminar Neo course right now. We're doing something called the Luminar Neo Accelerator. So we're releasing our new Luminar Neo course with all brand new lessons with the up-to-date version. So what you see in the current version will be in the course. And we were doing a live session as part of our accelerator, a live Q&A like this, but on Zoom, so that you can come on to camera and so on. And some of our commenters here are in the accelerator as well. And somebody said that the cropping video in the YouTube channel was so valuable. He said, I couldn't imagine, what 2 hours on cropping was going to cover, but he said it was really valuable. So Rob, you've got some things to share in the chat there. If you could please share the cropping video and also the information on our Luminar Neo course. If anybody wants to join the accelerator and pick up our course, it's on sale right now for $59, and the sale on that ends tomorrow evening. So make sure you take a look at that if you want to grab the course. Okay, so one of the things I said about cropping is that I generally crop fairly early in my workflow because I know I want to get rid of this thing at the top. I don't want to edit for stuff that I'm going to ultimately crop out, right? So I'm going to keep this aspect ratio. I'm going to get rid of this one at the top, but I want to make sure I don't lose this one. And then I think I want to get rid of some of this bottom stuff as well, but I don't want to lose this flower. So I'm going to start coming in here. Let's try that. Now I have a choice to make. I can put this flower over here. See, now it's off center, which is also better. Or I can move it over. Make sure I cut that one out of the bottom. Sorry, I got sniffly nose today. Or I can put it over here. Maybe even crop a little bit more. I think I want it up a little higher. Like so. I like the stem coming diagonally, and I'm going to do another trick. I'm going to show you here. I'm going to actually invert it because your eye reads left to right, and right now the stem is kind of taking us out of the image. So I want to see what this looks like flipped this way. I kind of like that better. Now I don't like this one at the bottom, but we're gonna deal with that a different way. We're gonna do some zoom. We're gonna do the zoomies. Anybody that has pets, who has pets in the chat? You know what the zoomies are, right? When your cat or dog starts to go like running around the house. Usually dogs after they have a bath, right? Our cat does the zoomies after she goes to the litter box. Okay, so now I'm just going to brighten it up a little bit. So I'm looking at the histogram. If you don't see the histogram, you can just go to view and turn it on, right? So I want to brighten this up a little bit. And let's see if we got a camera profile. Yes, we do. Now, if you don't see your camera profiles here, it either means you're using a Fuji camera because they don't pull into Luminar Neo, or your camera profile isn't supported potentially. But what you can do is you can go to Rob, if you could, might have to Google this. If you don't see your camera profiles show up, you can go and look for something called the Luminar. What am I saying? Adobe DNG converter. It's not Luminar. Kind of like the portrait one on this one. The Adobe DNG converter, and all you have to do is install it, and then that's it. And then when you open Luminar, close Luminar, and open it again, your profiles should show up here. Okay, so Adobe DNG converter is obviously an Adobe product, but it's free to install because if your camera raw files are not supported by any other software or by Luminar, you can actually convert them to DNG, but just installing that little app usually puts your profiles in here. So there's a quick tip. Okay, so I've changed the profile to portrait, and now I'm going to turn the clipping warnings on. That's my J is the keyboard shortcut on that. Rob's going to be busy today. You need to share the link to get the Luminar Neo keyboard shortcuts. So I have a cheat sheet for you with selecting most of the common keyboard shortcuts that I use in Luminar Neo, and you can get a download for that as well. Okay, so I'm brightening up the image, but I did not bring exposure up. Did you see that? I brought the whites up until we get some clipping. So you see these red notices, and then back again. Okay, then I'm going to add some black because black will intensify the color. Now, I don't want to add too much because I want to keep this image a little bit soft. And I'm going to just do this dance between brightening the exposure, which actually brightens your midtones, okay, and brightening the whites. So I'm kind of doing this balance between both, okay? Okay, sorry, my nose is sniffling today. So that's what I'm going to do with develop. The color's actually pretty good. Let's see the before and after. So I'm just brightening it up, okay? We could add a little bit of sharpness here. Let's see. Color's good, actually. I'm happy with the color. But if you want to try the eyedropper and see if the white is neutral, we can just grab the eyedropper. So you didn't change that much. Maybe tiny bit. So I'm good with that. Okay, now I want to start to get creative with this image. Okay, I do need to, I need a tissue, Rob. You're going to have to run an errand for me because my Kleenex box is empty and I need a tissue. Okay, so now I'm going to get creative. And to do that, I'm going to go down to the surprise creative tools. One of the ones that I like to use on stuff like this is the blur tool because it's really fun. It's got, you can do Gaussian blur, which is just overall blur, but then you can do things like twisted. And if you don't set the angle, it zooms from the middle. Now, interestingly enough, it zooms from the original middle of the original image before we cropped it. Okay, so it creates like a zoom effect. So see what that's doing? It's actually on the middle of the flower. If we do motion, okay, you get a side-to-side motion or an up and down kind of blur. So it can be used to create something called the Adamski effect. So it's like a blur in an image that's not blurred. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to create something similar to that. So I want to use, I think I want to use the twist one. Tilt shift isn't going to do very much in this one. It just blurs the edges, which is actually, you know, kind of neat. We can place the blur, make sure that this flower is sharp. So that's kind of neat too. If you want to blur everything else, right? I can even like go this way, get a little more of the stem like that. Okay, so that's kind of neat, right? So the tilt shift works quite well also. But I want to create some motion here. So I'm going to go twisted. And I am going to place, I think I like it actually in the actual middle of the image. Oh, there's my tissue. Thank you very much. So let's change the angle. So if you go to 45 here on the slider, roughly 45, 46, you get this spin effect. Can you see that? Now, all I'm concerned about is the outside of the flower because I'm not going to apply this on the flower. I just want it to apply to the background, right? So we need to mask it off that flower. And I'm going to try Object Select because Object Select masking in Luminar has become really good, actually. All you have to do is hover over an object. See, like I just move it around and I get most of the flower. Okay, now I've got the flower selected. All I have to do is invert it. So I want the opposite, right? There we go. Now it's got the little bit of the petals, but I kind of like that. Like it's got a little bit of the edges, so it creates this little like the flowers moving, right? Now notice that the stem is completely blurred, but I'm okay with that. So I'm going to copy this mask and then apply this tool again. So we're going to do twisted once more. And I'm just going to type in 45. I'm going to make sure that the center is in the same spot. Okay, so you have to replicate everything and then paste in the mask. So it's just duplicating this effect that I had on the first one. Okay, so now we're getting even more sort of spin. Now that I've done the blurring and given it a bit of an effect, I think I do want to crop this one out. So originally I kept the cropped, I kept that flower at the bottom because I wanted to balance it a little bit more. But I think now I want it gone. So I'm just going to come in to, let's see if we can make this a little bit more off center. Like so. I might even flip it back to the original cropping. What do you guys think? Crop this way or flip the other way? Because the face of the flower is facing left now versus facing right. So I'm undecided. But this is something that you can play with when you're dealing with images of flowers because you can. There's nothing in this image that says you can't flip it. Okay, I've got to deal with my runny nose. Hang on a second. Let me just mute myself. So Steph covered her eyes. Thanks for that, Steph. I turned off the video camera, so I didn't subject you to that. Karen says she prefers the original. An interesting practical guide to flower editing. Thank you. We're just getting started here. We're just getting started. Okay, so now all of this was done on the main layer, right? But if we want to get extra creative, we can actually do it on another layer. So we could actually let me undo what I just did. Okay, so what I could do is duplicate this layer. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate the layer. And then on the bottom layer, the original one, I'm going to remove the blurs. Okay, so you're not going to see any change in the image because the one on the top, there we go. The one on the top has the blurs. Okay, but now that we've done this, we have the ability with layers, and this is something we cannot do in Lightroom. We can't do the blurring eye like this either. We can lower the opacity, so we can soften the blur. See that? Right? Or we can play with the blend modes. Like, let's just see what happens if we... Ooh, that's a bizarre. Oh, I've got the clipping warnings on. That's why. There we go. Still doing some bizarre things. I still have the clipping warnings on. There we go. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. So pick one that kind of does something interesting. So they're all slightly different. See? So we can start to get some bizarre things. So difference is looking for a difference in the top layer to the bottom layer. But what happens if we dial this down, right? Could we get something strange? A few people in our community have been playing with this blend mode. And if you are not a member of our community already, there's another link for you to add, Rob. Right? So changing it on a layer and doing some of the effects on a layer just gives you different options. Okay. So there's a blur effect. Now let's see about if I'm just going to remove this layer. Actually, I wonder if I can remove this layer. See, I can't remove this layer because it's the original. Okay, I removed all the blurs. I'm going to try something else. All right, let's go back to... Get out of there. There we go. Let's try something different on a different image. Let's see. Let's go and do this one and see if we can create the same kind of effect that I did on the featured image for this week's live. Okay, so camera profiles. So all I'm looking at here is the flower. I'm not at all concerned about the background because we're literally going to get rid of the background. So I just want to make sure that the flower is nice and white. Let's get it neutral. That's pretty blue. Let's try over here. It's picking up a lot of blue for some reason. I kind of like the original color. Let's keep it warmer. There we go. And I'm just going to give it a tiny bit of sharpness here. Okay, now I want to do a cutout. Okay, so we could add all kinds of things on here, but what I want to do is cut out the background first. Okay, and then we could deal with editing the flower and adding a mask or a separate layer on the background. So to cut out the image from the background, you need to go to the layer properties. Sorry, I've got something else on my screen here. I just need to make smaller. There we go. Okay, so we need to go to layer properties, masking, and then background removal. Now, this is a tool that can be a little bit tricky to use the first time you try it. So it takes a minute to analyze the image, and it's looking for the subject, and then it's going to give us the recommended what is the subject, what is the background to cut it out. Okay. So that's actually a really good mask. Where the red is where it thinks is the subject. So we've got a little mistake here and a little mistake here, but that is really good. So can you see what I mean by choosing an image that's going to be easier, make your life easier? So I'm going to remove. So it chose main subject. So I'm just going to go remove. And then you get these new tools, these refinement brush tools. Okay. So this is what the cutout looks like. It's very close. We just need to correct a couple of mistakes here. Okay. So we're going to open the refinements brush, and then you see this bizarre thing. Okay. So all these brushes do is to help you define the portions of the image. Okay. So I was working on this with one of my tutoring students the other day, and the way that I describe them is the background brush is for painting outside the lines. So think about a coloring book. So if you're going to color the flower, okay, the background is outside the lines, the object, and that's the blue brush. The object is orange and it's inside the lines, but not touching. Okay. So just like it is here. So you don't want to come to the edge. You just want to get really close. So with the object brush, you paint inside the lines. Okay. With the background brush, you paint outside the lines. And so by painting here, I'm telling the program, this is part of the background. I do not want this cut out. Okay. Now, the tricky part becomes, okay, is this part of the flower or not? I can't tell because of this weird mask. So there's a little trick. Hold the backslash key down, and now you can see the original image. Okay. So now I'm just going to paint right along the edge here. And then when I let go, it's going to fill that in, and it chose what to remove. See that? And it did a really good job. I'm just going to go up in here as well. Okay, so now to kind of test your mask, we can just close up this section. Okay, so we're still in the, oh, see, I missed the part over here. Look at that. Okay, so I still got to come back over here. Let's get a bigger brush. Let's just get this whole thing. There we go. Okay, so now I've got most of it. I still feel like there's a little bit in here that shouldn't be selected, and maybe right in there as well. Okay, so I'm going to go this time with something called the transition brush. Okay, so the object brush is inside the lines, the background brush is outside the lines, and the transition brush straddles the line. So see how if I go right there, half of the brush is on the object or the subject and half is on the background. That's what you want. You want to straddle the edge. And you're telling the program, hey, my image, now I've lost some of it. I'm just going to get a smaller brush. You're saying my subject edge is here. You're telling it where the edge is. Okay, so now I'm just going to go with smaller brushes, and my little trick of holding that backslash key down. See, this little section in here is the tricky part. It still needs a little bit more. It's missing this corner here. Let's just get in there. So always get a smaller brush, and I could be zooming in as well to do a better job here. Okay, so if I zoom in, here's another trick too. You can only make the brush 10 pixels or 10 whatever units they're using here. But when you zoom in, it seems smaller proportionately to the rest of the image. Okay, let's see how we're doing. That looks pretty close, right? Little bit in here still, so I'm going to go with the transition brush just along this edge like that. And it should find that. Now it kind of is not, it's not having a good time finding the edge there. So I'm just going to get as close to the edge as I can and help it sort of define the edge of the flower. But you don't want to go over the edge, okay? Likewise here. Let's use my backslash key. So I want to get as close to this edge as I can, but inside the lines. Remember? Inside the lines. Inside the lines. I think that's probably pretty close. Oh, I still got a little bit of the outside here. So I'll go around the edge. It still thinks that part is the flower. So we're doing a refinement close to the edge with the background, transition, and object. Let's see, we go. There we go. That's pretty close. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now when we close up this layer properties, we have the background cutout. Okay, so this is one layer. Now we can still apply any tools that we want. We can give the flower some structure, right? Add some texture, contrast. We could try enhance AI. And of course, we don't have to mask the background because all we're seeing is the flower. We did all the work on this layer level. Okay, but now we have the ability of changing the background. So let's go find a background to add. The first time you add a new layer, you have to click this plus sign. It's kind of a 3-step process. Then you have to load an image. Then it shows up down here. Then you have to add it. So it's kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I've already got several images added, including a bunch of my textures. There we go. Including textures and some bokehs. So we could do a funky bokeh background, or we could do a texture background. So if you want to see the one that I used on the other image, it was this one here. Let's try something different though. Let's see if I can get one with more color. See, we could even do the Cuban flag. Like if I took this in Cuba, we could do the Cuban flag. Or we could take one of these bokeh ones that has lots of color and then blur it even more. Let's see. Any thoughts? The green one might be fun. Let's try this green one. Okay, so it comes on top as a new layer. And if I increase the opacity, obviously now you cannot see the bottom layer. So all we need to do is bring this layer down below the flower, and the flower is going to appear. Boom, just like that. Okay, because we had it cut out. Now we have this as a brand new layer on the bottom, and we can do whatever we want to it. So I could come and do some blur stuff. So we already got a zoom effect happening here. So I zoomed when I took this picture. So let's do a zoom, which is the twisted one. And I want it to come right. Actually, let's just leave it from default because then I don't have to worry about trying to place it. So let's do from the center. Okay. And I'm going to do it multiple times because I want even more effect. So there we go. That's a second time. And a third time. Okay, see how that is intensifying? Now, if the color is too much, and we've got a big black spot up here, we can do some alterations. Okay, so if the color is too much, we can go and work with the color. Or there's actually a neat tool that is part of, it's actually part of the, we could try dramatic actually. That one works well. So let's try dramatic because it tends to sort of take some of the color out. See that? So we've got color, but less of it intensified everywhere. So I'm going to play with this a little bit. Let's darken it. Let's see what that's doing. I kind of like it. So I like what that's doing. Let's bring the saturation down a little bit more. But I don't like this black area up here. I'd like to have some color up there, some green up there. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to duplicate this layer, okay? And now it's on top. And then I'm going to flip it upside down so we get some green up there, okay? And now I'm just going to play with the blend modes and see what happens. Look at that. Lighten's kind of cool. I want the green to show up on the top there. So lighten's kind of cool. Maybe we just need to alter the opacity. We can do that. Right? I could also just mask it in. So I could go fully with the normal and just mask it. So the simplest way of doing that is just with a linear gradient. Okay, so I'm just going to come from the top because I just want this part, right? Let's just do this part. Now we've got full green everywhere. I could go a little more, but that blends really nicely. You see that? It blends really nicely. Now I've just got green everywhere. I think I'm going to do that one more time. So I'm going to clear and do the linear gradient again. Come a little farther down. Get all of that red area there. So everything we have is just green now. Mostly. There we go. So kind of neat, right? Now if I want less color, again, I could just alter the color, but now remember I have to do this on both layers, okay? So whatever I do on this layer, I have to do on the other one as well, right? Let's see. Now the other thing I did on the flower was, on the pink flower, was because the zoom is coming out from behind it, I zoomed on the flower and then just applied it to the edges, just like we had on the white flower. So I'm going to do the same twisted or zoom blur, and I just want it to apply to the outside of the flower. So I'm going to do a radial gradient and watch my placement here. Okay, so I just want the edge of the flower. So remember where you place your mask. Okay, the red part is what's going to be affected. So I just need to invert it like so. So I just want the edges. Okay, let's come out like so. Let's go about like that. Okay, let's see how that looks. I could probably get a little bit more of the flower. So when you come back and try and redo a mask, it's kind of a weird little thing. You got to clear it and then do it again. So I'm going to do radial, invert, and let's try that. So I'm just getting more of the edge of the flower. There we go. Can you see how that just helps it be a little bit more believable, more seamlessly blended? And I'm just going to add a bunch of contrast here. Now this one, the green is a little too much for me. So I think maybe I might even just go and add like a mood. So there's some LUTs that I like. Under the creative, where are we? There's one called Sepia. I have way too many LUTs. Yes, it's under creative. So one of the ones that I like a lot is Sepia, or these ones here. Tritone's kind of cool. Let's go with sepia because it adds sort of this golden color. Okay, so let's just make note what I'm doing here. So sepia, and I'm going to bring the contrast down. So 40, amount, saturation 20, because whatever I'm doing here, I've got to go do on this layer as well. Okay, if I'd have done this first, then when I duplicated the layer, it would have come forward on this layer, on the second layer as well. So what did I say? 40 and then minus 20, right? There we go. Now I have the color matching. Now if I want to get rid of this little bit of red in here, I could use the color tool and just come in here and say, okay, I don't want any red. Probably it's on the top layer. Yep, not affecting. Okay, not to worry. So there's our before and after. All right, I'm sure we have lots of questions here. All right, what am I missing, Rob? Pick me up on some questions. Oh, let's see. Rob says the link to the community is in the video description. You can still post it here though, Rob. The more a photographer does flower editing, the more practice, knowledge, and speed they will make flower editing. I think that's true of anything, but that's great. That's great. Yep. Would I be able to change the purple, blue to green? You mean like kind of like what I did there, Steph? When I duplicated the green, so I got rid of a lot of the blue. We got 2 Stephanies today. Looks like a strange flower spaceship. It does, kind of. Looks like a strange flower spaceship emerging from a wormhole in space. There you go. Can I move a photo from one map to another map? I'm not sure what you mean by a map, Antoine. I think maybe there's a language conversion there. Do you mean from one module to another? And are you using Luminar? A map in the catalog, from the map that I called 1 to the map that I called 2. Yeah, I'm not sure. Say it in French, Antoine, because I think the word map is not coming across. CPM made the green look more natural. You tried just like in Lightroom, but it didn't work. So moving it, I'm trying to figure out what you might mean. Move from one folder to another. Okay, let me go over here and see if I can interpret what you mean. Everybody's trying to help you out. We just want to help you out. So if these are in an album, Antoine, so an album is like a collection in Lightroom. Okay, so I made an album of flowers. Okay, and for example, most of these are in if I look at most of these are in not edited yet in this folder over here, because these are for edit my image live. But this one is a stock image, for example. Okay, so if you want to move it, you need to move it, drag it from the folder. So if I look at this one, it's actually, oh no, that's a different one again. And we got more flowers to work with. I forgot I had this folder. So for example, if I want to add an image from here into, like if I want to put a background on one of these, because they're all black background, maybe this white flower, or the orchids would be trickier, but we could certainly do it. The white flower would cut out really nicely, again, because it's a simple. So to add it to an album, you just drag it. Okay, so now that white one is in this album. But if I want it in a different folder, you can do the same. Okay, so right now these are all in a folder under stock images called flowers. Right, now in Luminar, you can reorder your folders. Right, so if I want to, that's not going to work. You can reorder your folders and move them around. But if I want this flower in other, for example, if I drag it over there, it's going to show up here under other somewhere. Where is it? Did it go? Maybe it didn't go. I see the challenge. So is that what you tried to do and it didn't work for you? My head is obstructing. Okay, let me turn my head off. Okay, there we go. Sorry, my head is away. He says, yes, yes. Okay, so this is what you were trying to do. So you can move the images into an album, and looks like I tried to move it into another folder and that image did not show up in there. So that's kind of concerning. Let me just see. Show in Finder. It's not opening in Finder for me. Where are we? Stock images, pictures. I'm looking for other, just to see if that flower image went in there. So whatever I did in here, it sort of made the flower disappear. So that's interesting. Let me see if I can do an undo. Undo. No, it's not back there. The red flower is missing. So that's interesting because I'm going to go and dig into that. Because it seems like what you're trying to do you should be able to move an image from one folder to another and just drag it. And the image disappeared. It's not in the trash. I have nothing in my trash. And it just went poof. So I'm not sure where that image went. Yeah, interesting. And if I look in the flowers folder, there's definitely only 8 in there and it is missing. So interesting. All right. So to be continued on that one. I'm just looking in my finder. I'm in the folder here and I'm just looking to see if that rose image came in here and it's not. So strange, strange, strange. Okay. All right. I might have to report a bug to them. So you may have discovered a bug. So I don't think you're doing anything incorrectly. I think something is not working correctly with Luminar. Yeah. Um, So Daryl asked about sharing the video that Rob talked about on organization. We literally just put it up in the new Luminar Neo course. So if you own the course, you can access that at lesson 11. Otherwise, it is for course students only. So you would need to purchase the course if you don't already have it. Marguerite says, "Are the albums in Luminar virtual like the collections in Lightroom?" Yes, exactly, Marguerite. Exactly, exactly. I think you are too, Daryl. And if you own the previous version, Rob can check that for you. Maybe just do a quick check for her and see if she's an owner of the course, Rob. And um, I think you are, but if you own the old version and you want to come join the accelerator, the next call happens tomorrow, Daryl. And it's at 5 p.m. Edmonton time. And you can join into the Zoom call, and it's covering the next 3 lessons in the course. So you'd have to watch a whole bunch of videos today to catch up. Steph says it's awesome. We're kept on task with lessons to do weekly. Yes, so I do give you. And Rob says you are enrolled in the course, so you do have access to the new one. Maybe just post the page where she can go log in, Rob. So you just go to digitalphotomentor.com profile. Here, let me see if I can open a this is a great question, actually, for those of you that do own our course. If you own a previous version of the course, you have full access to it. All you need to do is log into Digital Photo Mentor. So just come to the site, go to log in. You can see my profile here. I'm already logged in. And you will see the new course at the top or somewhere in the list with what you own. So there's Luminar Neo, the complete course, and then there's the 2025 edition. So if you go into that, you will see the new lessons, and we just added a couple more up to lesson 12 last night. So 11 was the one that Rob was talking about, and somebody also said that lesson 5 was really valuable as well. So check those out, Daryl. And if you want to come and join the accelerator, you just need to purchase the accelerator, which is $37. So great questions. All right, let's come back here. So somehow we ended up with a missing missing rose picture. I think I did that with something else the other day, and it's like the image is just gone. Where did it go? So I'm gonna go look for it. So let's see what else we can do. I thought I added the white flower to this collection. Did I not? Interesting. See, that didn't go either. I thought I put this. Oh, I undid. That's what I did. I undid. I did an undo. I undid, undoed. I undoed. Okay, so let's do something different then. Let's see. This was an interesting image that I put in this collection because I liked sort of the juxtaposition, if you will, of the bird and the flowers with the building. And so I thought we could maybe do something to blur the building. I really am liking the blur tool these days. So I want to just sort of straighten this one because the building looks kind of crooked. So I'm just eyeballing it. So I'm looking at this middle line here because if I'm going to start to blur, I want to have the lines as straight as possible. And now I think we're getting a little bit of distortion. So the only way we can fix that is with Develop Raw. That is in the transform option down here. So let's just click this and see if it fixes it. That's not bad. So in combination with the crop tool, there we go. See how now the lines are more straight? So when you're looking up at a building, you get these lines that do this, and the transform tool straightens them. Okay, so that's what I did there with Develop Raw. Let's come back into Develop Raw. And let's see if we got a camera profile. Okay, landscape definitely punches it up. Now I want to give it a little more contrast. I always turn the clipping warnings on just to make sure that I'm not losing the highlights. Okay, so notice I have to go quite far and I'm pushing the whites as opposed to exposure. Okay, exposure is midtones and you see how it's affecting the graph, right? So I might bring that up a little bit, but I want to keep some nice contrast. Now the color seems a little off to me, so let's try the eyedropper on the bird. That feels a little bit too much yellow now. Let's try the eyedropper on the building. That feels too blue. So I'm going to go somewhere in the middle here. It also feels pink. Okay, so there we go. Straightening him out, warming him up a little bit. I'm calling him a him. Okay. Now let's see about blurring the building. Okay, so the word that I mentioned earlier was a Domsky effect. Let me just show you what that word is here because it's a Domsky effect. And basically, if you can find videos on this, but I'm going to show you how to do this. Is basically what it is you create this sort of combination of motion and stillness, right? Where the part of the image is blurred and part is sharp. So we kind of did that already with the flower, but let's do this is going to be a more effective one because it's all in the same image. Okay, so let's do the blur, and I'm going to do motion blur at 100%. Now, I always forget which way it's going, right? So this changes the angle, right? So I think that's up and down. I think that's up and down. Yeah. And I only want it to apply to the background, right? So masking this one could be tricky, but I'm going to try Mask AI. I'm crossing my fingers on this one that it picks up architecture. It did. Okay. Let's see. Hey, that's not bad. If I have to do, it's not perfect because it's not getting in real tight, but let's see what it does. Okay, so we need to do a little bit of work, just refining the edges a little bit, but that's okay. I can work with that. So I'm just going to go at like 50% and just go in around some things, right? So I'm blurring sort of the top around here. I don't want to get the bird so much, right? So I'm just going around the edges of everything at 50%, right? So I'm only painting with 50% because I don't want to have all the, like, see how this got these outline around everything. So I'm just kind of going over this to get rid of the outline. And I would do I would spend a lot more time doing this, right? I'm zoom in and come in closer, right? And what I'm going to do on the bird is I'm just going to go all the way around him, and then I'm going to deselect him. So let's come in closer because I want to get this edge nice around him. Okay, so see how there's just this weird, like a halo around everything? You need to get rid of that, right? You don't want it to be visible. That's looking better. I still see it in here. So I'm blurring to get rid of this halo. And then I'm just going to de-blur him again. So anywhere it's not perfect, just go around the edge. Like so. And then you could kind of, you know, take an image that was maybe not so interesting, but there was an interesting subject, right? So you have to have some merit of the image. Like, don't just start doing weird effects. The image had some merit in terms of storytelling, right? This bird and the building and this background. Remember to get down in here as well. So there's any of these outlines that are the problematic areas. Okay. Ideally, also, you could work with a tablet. And by tablet, I mean a graphics tablet. So not like an iPad, but a graphics tablet, right? Maybe share our link to our kit .co, Rob. So people often ask me, you know, what kind of gear and what things I use. So I made a list. There's a list that you can check out on this website Rob is going to share. And that's just some of the stuff that I use. Okay, so now I need to fix this bird, right? So he's too blurred. So I'm just going to go to erase. And start painting around the bird. I might blur the edge of him and let the edge of him go a little blurry. See, again, I've got that. I've got to get a smaller brush yet and get into his legs, in his beak, and just get the edge a little bit cleaner. But I'm okay with part of him blurring, okay? I believe there's a shortcut for, oops, see, I went the wrong way. I need to paint that in. I'm just going with a smaller brush. I believe there's a keyboard shortcut for switching brushes. Let me try it. X. Watch the brushes here. Yep. There you go. I knew there was a keyboard shortcut. Okay, so let's zoom out. How are we looking? I think I want to paint in a little more blur. Maybe down in here, right? So you can decide where you want to add it, right? Maybe we should have some in here. Again, I'm at 50%, right? So wherever I'm adding the blur, it's not full strength, right? So it's like the background is blurred, but not the flowers, okay? Now, if we want more of the effect, right, we can do more. I'm just going to go with a big brush set to erase around him like that. There we go. So I got a bigger brush and just did a soft erase all the way around the bird. Okay, so we don't get that hard outline around him. Now, if we want to do an additional blur, we did a lot of work on this mask, so let's just copy it and then do a second time. Motion, make sure it's going up and down, and paste. So there's the effect duplicated. Okay. Pretty cool, right? So that's the Adamski effect. All right, let's see what else we got happening here. Oh, thanks, Karen. Appreciate it. Karen is in Caymans. Karina Lynn says, does the course need the upgraded 1.21 or 1.22? I haven't updated Neo because I heard of issues and waiting for another release. Well, interestingly enough, Karina, look at mine. I am on 1.22. I would actually just say, yes, stay where you are, because I've heard some issues with 1.22 as well. I usually update mine because I need to have whatever's new, but the last update literally just had some minor changes. So I would say stay where you are. Yep. Yeah, Steph said the same. She didn't update hers. Yeah. Okay. So that was kind of a cool one. So far we've just done blurs. Let's try something different. and maybe do a texture overlay. Okay, so this one actually is going to work really well for a texture overlay, and we don't need to process this because it's a stock image, and it, you know, obviously it looks nice and crisp. So this is a very specific style that's really nice. I like it a lot. So I got this from Unsplash. So if you want flower images to work with and practice, just go to unsplash.com. Maybe share a link with them, Rob. I think I have a couple of collections in there, but just share a link to Unsplash. You can just go search for flower images, and these are royalty free stock images that you can use to practice. Okay, so I'm going to add a texture this time. So once again, I'm going to load the layers, and let's go find a texture one. So I want to add it in the background and just add some subtle texture. So I'm going to try one that has a lot of texture. Let's try, this one's kind of a brick wall, but this one might be kind of neat as well. Or this one. This one's got some Arabic writing. I think I took this in Morocco. Okay, so once again, when we play it on top, it comes in at normal blend mode at 50%. But what I want to do is I'm going to change the blend mode to one of these ones down here under lighten, because I only want it on the background. See that? Notice how when I change it to lighten, the texture overlay only appears where the texture is lighter than the image on the bottom. So it's applying everywhere except like these darkest parts of the flower. So that can be easy to mask that out. Okay, so look at that. How quick and easy is that? Then all I have to do is just say, okay, I want to mask it off. Now here's the tricky part. I can't say object select and pick the flower because the flower's on the bottom layer. And this is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I'd love to be able to go and select the flower and make a mask of the flower and then copy it into this layer. But we can't, because if I try object select, you'll see what happens. Look, see, it's going based on the texture image, not the flower. Okay, so I have to brush this in. So I'm going to do erase, and I'm going to lower the softness because I want to get close to the edge here. Okay, so I'm going to erase it from the edge of the flower. Right, and I lowered the opacity as well. Maybe I'll get a little bit softer here. So just, if I have a little bit of texture in the flower, I'm okay with that. But I don't want it in this middle part here. So it's showing up in a few places that I want to remove it. But over here, I don't mind it. Like it's kind of subtle, right? There's my sniffles again. So let's take a look. So there's no texture. Oh, now I can really see where it is. Okay, so once I turn the texture up, I can see I've got a lot over in here. So I'm just going to get rid of some of it in the middle of the flower here. Like so. Oh, it's over this petal here. Let me get... I'm changing the size of the brush with the keyboard shortcuts. That's the square bracket keys. Okay, now I can just dial it down. And because this is a layer, okay, I can also do any effects I want on this image. So if I want to darken it or brighten it or blur it or anything, right? So if I want to add just a little bit of blur, I'll use Gaussian blur. See that? Just ever so slightly. So it's like the background, right? And then I'm just going to bring the opacity down. See, now I masked it too much over there. I'm missing part of the flower or the background over here. See, it's got to blend a little bit nicer along the edges here. Too much black showing. That's better. Maybe up here too. So I'm letting the texture overlay come into the flower just a bit along the edges. And I'm okay with that. There we go. Now, just to show you the opposite. So anytime you have something that's pure black like that, lighten blend mode is going to show whatever you put on top. If we go the opposite way, and let's get a dark texture. Let's see. Maybe this blue one. This is kind of a dark blue, mossy, dirty kind of look. Okay. If I change the blend mode to, watch this. Okay. If I change the blend mode to darken, it's going to go on top of the flower for the most part, but it's also going to apply to darken on the other layer. Okay. So I might have to move these. Okay. So let's just, ooh, that's kind of neat, isn't it? Okay. So let me move this down a layer so it's only applying to the flower. Okay. And then let's just kind of, ooh, that's kind of cool, actually. Now we're really creating some art. Okay, now it's like, okay, do we like this better? Maybe I want to turn off this layer and just see that. That's kind of cool too. So just by playing around with these blend modes, right? Again, lighten, we'll show it in the background, right? Overlay, these ones look for contrast. Right? So hard light's kind of neat, but I have to do a lot of masking. This one kind of ends up being a little weird. But we're creating some abstract stuff, right? So you see how when I bring it up, the original image is the same, like the texture background, and it's kind of creating a negative effect of the flower. It's like opposite colors, like negative, right? I kind of did like this one though. I think that's really cool. So we created two very different looks here. And you notice how the effect is stronger where the shadows are, right? It really looks like it blends. And this one. Okay, so two very different looks. And all you have to do is turn the layer off. Now, if I wanted, let's try one other one that might work better here. I just want a subtle, like a crunchy texture. Let's see. This one here might work. It's kind of just pink and soft. Yeah, there we go. Now I want this one just on top of the flower. So again, I'm going to put it down here. And I'm going to change the blend mode to darken or somewhere in here, right? Ooh, look at that. That looks like it blends a whole lot better. And it works with the background. So instead of that blue texture, that's pretty cool. But the other thing you can do with these layers is we just put it on as is, right? I can flip the texture layer and we get a totally, different look based on where the texture shows up. I do like it down there. Ooh, I like that a lot. So that's kind of cool. So now I've decided, okay, I don't like this blue on. I'm just going to remove that layer. And now we've created something really cool. I think. So there's the original, and there's where we're at. And I might even come in and darken this one a little bit more. So either just fade it out like this, or I could actually use the tools in here to darken it. Okay, so I could add some more black and then just darken the image. Okay. Like so. So we have options. When things are on layers, you have lots of options. I think I might add a vignette on this one. So remember, it's vignetting the texture layer, right? Like so. All right, let's see. Thanks for coming, Daryl. Nice to see you. Yeah, we're here every other Sunday. So 2 Sundays from now will be a different time, though. Can you check the time? I think we're going to be at 4 o'clock Edmonton time, so 6 p.m. Eastern. How do you save all the different versions that you've just created? That's a great question. So I deleted that blue layer, but I could have saved it out before. So to save all the options, as long as you have layers, you've not done any destructive editing. So I can export this one as is, like this. Then I could say, well, I like the other background. Then I could do a version like that and just export it again. And then I could do a version like that and export it like that. Okay. And or turn all the layers off and just have the flower if that's, your original image. The flower looks like almost like it's like a plastic, doesn't it? I mean, it's real, but it's just so smooth and neat. This is a really cool shot. I like it a lot. So you just have to export, just turn the layers off and just export it more than once. How did I delete a layer? Just right click it and then you have these options: hide layer, duplicate layer, remove layer. Or you can actually delete a layer. I'm just going to add one here that I don't want. So for example, I can put smoke on top. Okay. Let's add some smoke. So there, I've added some smoke. Okay. So this one here, when you are on this layer, you can literally just hit delete and it goes away. So you actually have to be really careful. You don't delete it by accident. Hey, Neil. Good to see you. Good review for mentoring from last week. Yeah, we had a session last week, and I think we talked about some of these things, didn't we? Because this is actually, you inspired me, Neil, because some of the things we talked about we're covering today. So yeah, thanks for that. So you can inspire me as well. I really like this. I might even export it, right? So what else? We could do the same kind of thing with this flower, right? We put a texture in the background, a texture over it. So let's take this one in here, because like what Karen said, okay, how do I do different versions? Now, if I want to do something different, I can literally just hide these layers. So I'm not getting rid of them. I'm just hiding them. Okay. And we can go and add, let's just go and do the same texture. So I'll go and grab that one with the writing. Okay. And I'm going to put it behind the flower. In this case, I had to put it behind the flower. The blend modes don't work because we did a mask, okay? Because this one doesn't have a black background, okay? So in this case, I had to put it in the background. So now it's a little too bright, so I'm just gonna darken it. Remember, I'm working on the background image. I'm gonna warm it up a little bit. You want to make sure that if you put an image together that it matches. So the flower has a little bit of green in it. So I want to make sure that the background image has a little bit of green as well. Right. And then I put the vignette on. Okay. Like so. Okay. And I think I blurred it a little bit, didn't I? I just did a little Gaussian blur. Yeah. Just a Gaussian blur. Just subtle. Right. And then we did a texture on top. Okay, so let me grab that same pink wall. These are all part of our texture pack. So if you grab our texture pack, was it Color Burn? What did I use here? See, this is interesting because we have a different scenario here. Because the flower is below this layer and then this one is below again. So it's going to apply to both, right? So if I say I want this one to darken, anywhere that it's darker on the texture layer, it's going to apply as well. So let's just see about... See, I'm not liking it as much on this image. It worked really well on the other one. So this one I would have to come in and just do maybe a radial gradient just over the flower. Like that. Because remember, the flower is on a different layer, so I can't use the mask AI. There we go. So now we just have texture on just that part. Maybe just subtle. Okay. And if I'm going to do this, I might come in and, oh, I got to go to the flower layer and just get rid of that blur. Because remember, I blurred the edges of the flower. So now I'm just going to dial it off. So I'm not removing it because we did a nice mask on here, or we did a nice edit. So I'm just dialing it down. So there is our new layer. So now I could export this, right, as one option. I could turn off the texture on the flower, export, again, another option. And if I want to change the background, just put these ones back on. So hide that one, put those back on. And because I didn't remove the blur tool, I just dialed it down, I have the ability to just put it back. Okay. I did mask this one to just the edges, remember? So yeah, we already did the mask on this one. Right. So just like that. And I can export that one. So really quickly, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different versions of this image, right? And it's all non-destructive editing. So you haven't gotten rid of anything. Okay. As soon as you start deleting layers, then I got rid of something, but I haven't gotten, I haven't lost anything. Okay. I do want to do a combination of the two sunflower images, and I'm going to come back to Lightroom for that one. These are some stock images again. I don't even know where I have these stored. Actually, I can find these. Oh, they aren't in the stock images for the Lightroom course. Okay, I could just go and add those. Give me a second here. I will just add these. I want to do the whole thing in Luminar today. So I'm just going to go add these. Where's my Lightroom course? There it is. And there it is. Okay, so I'm just going to add these images. And I'm going to find that sunflowers. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to grab these and just put them in this album. There's our sunflowers. Okay, so now I want to put this one on top of this one. So a couple of things. Let's just look at them a little bigger here. So they need to be a similar color. This one is kind of reddish versus these ones are very yellow. So I need to get them to match a little better. Now I could do that before, and then I'm just kind of, trying to mess around, or I can do that after because there'll be a layer, right? So I'm going to take this one here. Now I wish that Luminar would allow me to add a layer from an image in a catalog, but it doesn't. We have to go find it. So when I go in here and go to add a layer, I have to go find that image, right? So luckily we're in that same folder. And where the heck is it? I should have looked at the file name. Let's look at the file name. Aaron. Okay, so let's go in here. Load image. And it's the first one. There we go. Okay, so now I can add this one. So remember, it's a 3-step process. Load the image, then add it. Okay. Now it's a different shape, but that's okay. So I can just position this where I want. So if I want it just coming out of the field, actually let's have it come all the way down here, right? And I'm going to change the blend mode. Let's try one of these. That's kind of neat. It's like in the sky. And then I could just mask those guys out, right? So that's kind of neat. Ooh, that looks good. Hard light. Ooh, there we go. Look at that. That blends way better. See that? And it kind of makes a neat blend down here. So I'm just going to go with a linear gradient to fade it out down to this bottom area like that. I need a little bit less, maybe. Let's just come with the brush. No, I took too much. Here's a little trick, right? If you are painting, anytime you're painting with a brush, if you do one click, hold your shift key down and then click again, it will draw a straight line. Okay. This came up. David shared a video that he was watching in another instructional tool, was that he did here. Let's just try that, David. He did a click here. So I'm just going to change the softness to 0 so you can see it. So click here. Oh, I need to do it with erase. So the original sky is going to show through here. Okay, so let's get a smaller brush. So we clicked there. Okay, then it made the brush bigger and clicked over in another spot, and it made like a triangular or wedge. Ah, it didn't work in here. Interesting, hey? It made the whole larger size. So was it in Lightroom that he did that, and it made a wedge shaped mask. So interesting, it did not do that in here. Okay, I'm still not happy with this edge here. Maybe I just need to move the layer a little bit more. I really want to get the edge blending here. Okay, let's come back to erase. Maybe I just need a lower softness. Okay, so I want to get the edge of these flowers here. There. So it's a little bit harder edge. Maybe I could soften it a little bit more. Let's go with a lower opacity. Go one more time so it blends a little bit into the flowers. There we go. That's a little better. So there we have a blend. I kind of knew this one would be neat. I like this hard light. Now, if I come back to normal, okay, it blends as well, and that's not bad, okay? But I kind of like these other blend modes. Like it does something neat, right? That's kind of cool too. We get something more ethereal, right? Look at that. Okay. Now, here's another trick, okay? So if the flower is not intense enough, we can duplicate this layer. So there's two ways to do that. You can just press a D on your keyboard or right click and press duplicate. And now, because we had the hard light blend mode, we get the same exact edit on this new layer. So now if I want to intensify the flower, okay, and then say, okay, I just want it here. Oh, I gotta clear it. See, there's that weirdness with the mask again. So let's go. We just want it on the flower. Like so. Just like that. Okay, so now this layer is just intensifying the big flower. Okay. Like so. Kind of neat. Okay, how are we doing? Oh, interesting. It doesn't work in Photoshop either. Okay, so the small to large brush. Huh. Interesting. Let's see. Milton, first time, Ocala, Florida, planning to buy Luminar Neo. I have no other editing suite in the moment. Well, Milton, go and grab our course for $59 and then come and join us for the accelerator call tomorrow. You will find a huge value. Even if you can't catch up to the lessons, we're doing lessons 5, 6, 7 tomorrow. So you need to do some homework. But if you go grab the course and get started, it'll get you everything you need to know to go right from the very beginning if you're brand new to photo editing. So everything you need. That's exactly what you need. Yes, the coupon code to buy Luminar Neo, but he needs to get the course as well. So there's a link in the description to get Luminar Neo. Yes. Okay. Luminar needs to amend so that you can add from the catalog. I agree. I met with a couple of the developers a couple of weeks ago, and they were asking me some questions about, what would I like Luminar to do? And that was one of the things that I said, I'd love to be able to select 2 images from the catalog and say, load them up as layers, because you can do that from Lightroom into Photoshop really easily, right? If I just hop over here to Lightroom, right, the easiest way for me to do this here is I just have to say edit in, open as layers, right? So then Photoshop stacks them one on top of the other for me, right? So yes, I'd love to be able to have that option in Luminar, and that's feedback that I gave them, as well as I want to be able to copy the mask like we were dealing with that white flower. I want to be able to copy the mask from the flower layer and apply it on another layer, right? Like the background, for example. Let's see. Thanks so much, Corina Lynn. Nice to have you. Captain Stan. I have the Luminar Neo course and just purchased the 2025 version. It mentioned that the accelerator was included, but it's not listed under my profile. If you bought the course after August 18th, then the accelerator is included. But if you bought it like a year ago or more, the accelerator is not included for older students. The new version of the course is included for you, but the accelerator is not. If you buy the course brand new, like for Milton, then it is. So if you want to join the accelerator, Captain Stan, you just need to purchase that, and it is the $37. So could you please give him a link to the accelerator, Rob? Hey, Marty, haven't seen you forever. Nice to see you here. Would love for you to come join us in the community as well. Yes, free. There's 2 free preview lessons in the course. So if you want to check out the first couple of lessons, and if you find value there, then go ahead and buy the course. But the price sale ends on that tomorrow night. So the price is going up after tomorrow night. So Tuesday, it won't be $59 anymore. Let's see. You already purchased the new course. Send us send us an email, Stan. Can you put the contact page on the chat, Rob? Send us an email, Stan, and we'll double check your purchase and let you know what you need. If you just purchased the new course, then all you have to do is grab the link. I'll be sending out another email again to everybody that qualifies for the accelerator. I'll send that out tomorrow before the call. So if you just bought the course and you need to get the link to the Zoom, there's 2 ways that you can do that. You just need to come into our community. So if you have purchased the Luminar Neo course, you get access to our community in this area here. So this is now the discussion area for our course, right? So you would get free access to this portion for students. And if you purchased the course recently, then you should automatically see the accelerator events here. And this is how you would actually find it and join the Zoom call just by clicking this link. Okay, the recording, so the one from last week, is here as well. Okay, so everything that you need for the accelerator is inside the community. As well, it tells you what homework you need to do. So this one for tomorrow, you need to watch lesson 5, 6, 7. And they are fairly involved. So you want to make sure you get on top of your homework, because we're going to be answering, or I'm going to be answering questions on those 3 lessons in tomorrow's call. Great questions, everyone. Hey, Vivian, good to see you. Vivian is joining me in Cuba. As a side note, we actually have 2 spots left on our Cuba tour because we had a cancellation. So if you'd like to join me, Jan is saying hello. If you'd like to join me in Cuba, we have 2 spots left. We're going to be closing it. Oh, what was I showing? Oh, sorry, my head was blocking again. We're going to be closing the registrations for this tour very, very soon because we're finalizing all of the rooms and everything. But if you would like to come and join me in Cuba, you absolutely can. It's an adventure of a lifetime, and we start January 15th. So this tour starts in Havana and ends in Havana. You just need to get there, and we take care of everything else. And if you have any questions while you're on this page, Dan is there. He's my partner. He runs the tours, and I do the leading of the guiding of the group in Cuba. And Dan is there to answer any questions if you have any questions. So I think we're good. People are saying lesson 5 is epic. Oh, that's very nice. Somewhere I got a ping. I'm not sure what's pinging me, but somewhere I got a ping. So I think I'll just come back here. So our next live session is going to be 2 weeks from today. And I'll probably do something holiday themed because we're coming up to, Christmas and Hanukkah and the end of the year. So look for that 2 weeks from today, but the time changes. Okay. So the third Sunday of the week is 6 p.m. Eastern or 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So if you are in Europe, that might be too late for you, which is why we're alternating the times. Okay, so at 4 p.m., we can pick up some of our Australian and New Zealand friends down under. So hopefully, those of you in North America, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And for our European friends, we'll see you in the new year, unless you want to join us in 2 weeks. It'll just be a little bit late for you, but you're welcome to join us anytime. With that, do we have any other final questions? Stephanie says one day you'll make Cuba. Honestly, Stephanie, if you can swing it this time around, I would do it because we may not do Cuba next year. The following year, it's getting more and more difficult to get Americans, of course, with the administration change and rule changes and things. So we may not be running Cuba again for a couple of years, if we do at all. We're working on Vietnam also for next year. We have Slovenia. But if you want to go to Cuba, this might be your last chance for a while to come with us. So if you can at all swing it to come on this one, and Vivian's looking for a roommate. So, you and Vivian could share a room and have an adventure. And then the rest of the people in the community are going to be jealous. So think about it. If you can. Anyways, no pressure. I'm going to say goodbye for today from snowy, cold Edmonton, wherever you are joining in from. Stephanie's going to be in Africa. Well, that's exciting as well. So when are you back? Let's chat in the community, Stephanie. I'd love to know more about where you're going. What countries are you visiting in Africa? I've only been to Morocco, and I'd love to go and see more of Africa for sure. So that's on my bucket list, like Namibia, maybe South Africa, some safaris and stuff. So I am going to say thank you. Selwyn's here, awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to say adios, adieu, bonsoir, wherever you are joining in from today. So take care, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.